Fellas, have you ever gotten to the end of your day and realized that you are just completely exhausted? You didn't even do that much that day, but mentally you're cooked, as the kids say. Emotionally, you're irritated for no damn reason, and physically, you are just done. But somehow your brain is like, "Hey, let's start a new hobby at like 11:47 at night." So now you're watching YouTube videos and it's about how to build a cabin in the woods. Like this is the most important thing in life right now. And to be clear, yes, I'm calling myself out on this because I have definitely been or may still be there currently. But if you have ADHD, there's a reason why we do and we feel this. So let's talk about it. This is Wild Focus. And today we're going to be talking about something that a lot of men don't even realize that we're doing or that we're dealing with. And that's emotional burnout. That's ADHD emotional burnout, not stress and not, I just had a bad week. I'm talking about that weird burnout where you look fine on the outside. And then, I mean, you're still showing up for friends and family. You're still functioning, but inside, that nervous system of yours, it's basically running on fumes and duct tape. And most men don't call it burnout. We say things like, I'm just tired, I'm fine, I just need a minute, or I'm just in the mood. Meanwhile, that brain of ours is basically running on that emergency backup power. And if you're thinking, man, why am I so irritated lately? Why do I feel numb? Why can't I even relax when I have the time to relax? Now, I know a lot of people say this, but there is a difference between neurotypical burnout and ADHD burnout. So here's where ADHD burnout is different. And to be honest, I think most people think burnout means you just stop working. You can't function, you collapse. ADHD burnout is a little bit sneakier. It's like a damn ninja, if you will. It's a silent ninja. And because a lot of guys with ADHD, we keep going. We still go to work, we answer messages, we pay the bills, we show up for the people in our lives that matter. But internally, it feels like your brain has 40 tabs open and all of them are lagging like it's a damn dial-up internet. And the simple version of what's happening is that your ADHD brain already uses more mental energy than for everyday stuff. Things that other people just simply do automatically. We have we have to actively manage our focus, our emotions, our memory, distractions, switching tasks. So our brain is constantly on. And over time, naturally that's going to drain you. And it's not because you're weak, but it's because you're always mentally working. It never shuts off. And eventually you start noticing things like everything feels annoying. We snap easier. We feel checked out most times. And you don't care about stuff that you usually like. You're tired, but wired all at the same time. And if that wasn't weird enough, you'll be completely exhausted and still somehow you start reorganizing your garage at midnight like your life just freaking depends on it. And it's because your brain isn't looking for rest, it's looking for stimulation. And a lot of ADHD men live in this constant on mode without even realizing it. In most cases, our brains are always scanning what needs to be done, what we forgot, what could go wrong, and what's next on the list. Your brain, it's still constantly moving at an alarming rate. And if you're a dad working, building a business, trying to provide, that pressure stacks up and it stacks up fast. Now, the part that I don't, in all the research I've done since I've started my journey, there's one part that I don't think we talk about enough and we don't say out loud. And that's that ADHD burnout in men usually doesn't show up in sadness. It shows up as irritability, impatience, shutting down, zoning out, and not really wanting to talk to anyone. We isolate ourselves quite a bit. So instead of saying, I'm overwhelmed, we tend to navigate towards saying things like, don't talk to me right now. And yeah, I 100% will level with everybody. I have been there more times than I want to admit. And the tricky part is small things suddenly feel huge. And that sucks because in the moment we react. And afterwards we realize truly how just fucking stupid it was that we let that get to us. It's somebody like someone's asking you more than one question, right? That can just be that persistent like tap on the side of your head annoyance for some stupid reason. Noisy rooms can just trigger us quicker than most. Kids yelling, constant notifications, anything that requires a damn decision. It just overloads our brain. And then again, 5 minutes later, we're like, why the hell did we react like that? That cycle is exhausting. So, so exhausting. I want to take a quick second to pause and to talk about my company, Weekend Wild. It's an outdoor lifestyle brand built around one idea: spend less time on your screens and more time outside. If you head over to weekendwildmi.com, you can check out all the gear that we have. And if you use the code WILDFOCUS15, you can get 15% off your entire purchase. Now, this is the part that really means a lot to me. 10% of all sales goes to supporting the DNR Stepping Stones program, which is a nonprofit that is dedicated to helping individuals and families gain access to the outdoors. So if you want to support the podcast along with the DNR Stepping Stones program, please go to weekendwildmi.com today and use that code WILDFOCUS15. So here's something that a lot of ADHD men struggle with. We don't really know how to rest. And we don't know how to rest, but we know very well how to distract ourselves though. And the big difference here is like the things that we tend to navigate to scrolling. Scrolling is not rest. That is putting our brain in a constant state of stress. TV isn't rest. I mean, I guess it can be if you put on like a show or a movie that you've seen 1,000 times that is just background noise. But a lot of us tend to choose more things like sports and And that definitely cannot be rest for a lot of the times, especially if you get caught up in it. You find yourself yelling at the TV, or your your heart rate's being accelerated. And if you are a fan of the Pistons right now, you know damn well what I'm talking about. There's no rest or relaxation when you're watching them in the playoffs. TV, obviously, like you said, that's not rest. Gaming isn't really rest. It's still just all stimulation. And for a lot of us, silence can actually feel pretty uncomfortable, because when everything gets quiet, your thoughts get loud. We stay busy always. And a lot of that comes from the belief that we pick up early in life. And that's, if I stop moving, I'm going to fall behind. I'm going to put myself in a bad spot, and it's going to be even harder to dig myself out of it. So even when we're exhausted, we push through it anyways, even though we know we should tap at this point. We should call it and just take a break. But eventually the body just kind of goes, all right, well, I'm done. You're done. We're done. And that's when burnout really shows up. And at that point, it's borderline dangerous. And one of the biggest signs of ADHD burnout in men is that isolation that I talked about earlier. Not because we hate people most of the time, but because interaction starts feeling like way too much effort that we can bring ourselves to put in. Talking takes energy. Listening takes a lot of energy. That additional focus that we have to apply to listen is a lot of energy. Even texting can feel like we're like work that we do not want to do. So you want alone time, but then the kicker is you start feeling lonely. But then you want connection. But then you don't have the energy for it. So we just end up saying things like, nah, we're good. I'm good. Or I'm just tired. Meanwhile, though, inside, you're kind of just overloaded. And this is where things can truly get messy, because isolation feels easier than effort. And our brains want to take that easy way out. So you pull back, right? You stop talking as much, you stop sharing as much, you start keeping everything inside, and that starts causing strain to relationships. And eventually that pressure comes out sideways. You start snapping. You're responding in a very sarcastic way that is not humorous. You emotionally shut down, and you start creating distances in relationships. Not because you don't care. That's not what this is. It's because you're overloaded at this point. And now we talk about a part of this that gets dark. And I'm going to be honest with you. This part kind of scared me the most when I started learning about ADHD. So men with ADHD are statistically more likely to struggle with addiction, depression, anxiety, emotional burnout, and unfortunately suicide. And look, that doesn't mean that ADHD automatically causes those things. But imagine spending years feeling behind, overwhelmed, inconsistent, misunderstood. Emotionally, you've been all over the place. And you never really understood why. That wears on a person, especially men, because most of us grew up hearing things like man up, push through it, stop being dramatic. So instead of talking about what's happening, we numb the shit out of it. And honestly, a lot of addiction and ADHD isn't even about wanting to party. It's self-medication. Your brain is desperately trying to feel calm, focused, motivated, regulated, and something different than what it feels right then in the moment. And that's why ADHD brains can latch onto things hard. Not just substances either. Sometimes it's alcohol, weed, nicotine, gambling, porn, doom scrolling, work, adrenaline. Gosh, when adrenaline hits, you get addicted to that and you just continue to seek it out. Relationships, shopping, hobbies. ADHD brains, they just don't chase pleasure. They chase relief. And that is the part that people miss. And honestly, some of us, we just do not know how to relax. I think back to when I started this journey, the first time I met with my doctor. I was getting the normal checkup you would if you go in to speak with a physician, and he, after listening to my heart rate and my blood, looking at my blood pressure and everything, he asked, "You nervous about something?" And my response was, "I'm always anxious. I don't know how. I truly don't know how to not be anxious. I don't know how to be calm most times." And that is how we really got on the topic of having ADHD. I went there obviously to talk about it after talking to my therapist. And yeah, that was just that naturally led us right into the conversation and about being diagnosed. So going back to it though, we men tend to just rotate through addictions. Like this month, I'm healing through espresso and Facebook fucking marketplace. And I just need to get something new. I just need to pick up that new 9 iron that I found. Um, or we say things like, I don't know, nothing says emotionally regulated like and impulsively researching motorcycles at midnight after a stressful day. But again, we say that as a way to try to just disarm the situation if it gets brought up, but underneath the humor that we portray, a lot of men are struggling, and they're struggling quietly because outside the world sees the jokes, the personality, the functioning adult, but they don't see the exhaustion, the shame, the emotional overload, the constant pressure that's inside of our heads. And one of the hardest parts about ADHD burnout is isolation because that starts feeling safer than being vulnerable to the people around us. So instead of opening up, we tend to just disappear. We withdraw. We distract ourselves. We stay busy on things that are not truly that important. Uh, we just pretend we're all good. Meanwhile, mentally, we're drowning, and it's quiet for the most part. And that's why this stuff honestly truly matters. And this is why I want to talk about it. I want to make sure that I know this is about ADHD and emotional burnout in men, but ultimately all burnout, especially if you have ADHD. All this stuff matters. We got to talk about it. We have to get it out there because we cannot keep that shit inside. It's only going to doom us more. And I promise you, nobody wants that. No one, you don't want that. The people around you, they don't want that. But men with ADHD are far more likely to experience suicidal thoughts compared to the general population. And honestly, I don't think that shocked me when I read that. Not when you spend your whole life feeling like, why can't I just handle life like everybody else? Why can't I just do things that others are doing so easily? That's heavy. And if that's That's where you are right now. I need you to hear this. And I need you to hear this clearly. You are not weak for struggling. And isolating yourself will convince you nobody understands what's happening. But I promise you, there are people who do. And there are ways to get better. So how? How do we do this? How do we take that first step into getting better? How do we deal with things? And the first step, honestly, I believe is stop waiting until you hit that burnout level 100 to fix things. ADHD brains are bad at maintenance. We wait until things are basically on fire, but what actually helps is small resets along the way. So when you feel yourself starting to get to that point, force yourself to slow down and take time to reset, whether that's getting outside for a few hours, whether that's going on a simple camping trip for the weekend, just to get away, just to reset. That is probably one of my favorite things to do to reset is just grab a tent, go find a spot, and just rest mentally, physically. It's it's honestly for me through this journey has been such a saver to me for sure, 100%. Reduce input on purpose. So your brain doesn't need constant stimulation. Instead, try going outside without your phone. I know in today's world that's hard, but put it upside down across the room, doesn't matter. Step outside without it. Spend some time out there, 20 minutes plus. Sit in silence for a few minutes. Less scrolling at night, especially before bed. Less background noises all the time. Your brain needs breaks from all of these inputs. Another one would be just move your body. So not for fitness, but for regulation. If you want to, yeah, if you 100%, you want to build out a routine, a fitness routine, a workout routine, do it. Do one that works for you. Don't try to mimic one that you see influencers do. Find the one that works for you that you enjoy. Walking, lifting, hiking, anything physical that helps your brain reset. It resets the chemicals like dopamine um, and stress hormones. Your brain, obviously, it wasn't designed to sit still all day under strains. So again, that getting outside, that nature, that helps completely regulate your systems. Another one would be stop thinking that you have to earn rest. This is a big one, and this is the one that I am in the process of getting better at. But rest is not an reward. It's maintenance that we need. We naturally need this. You don't wait until your car explodes to get an oil change, right? No. Maybe you let it go past a few miles, 100 miles sometimes. Not calling myself out there, but it's the same thing. You need to change the oil before it runs out and your car blows up. So if you can't tell, I'm not really that much of a car guy. But another thing is simple nervous system resets. Again, things like sitting by a fire, walking in nature, fishing. Fishing is a fun one. Breathing slower on purpose, slight meditation. Honestly, I think I talked about this in the past episode. I used to laugh at the thought of meditation, but man, that has really come in clutch a few times, especially before sleep. So that is something that I do tend to do. I will sit there in silence and just kind of practice that slower breathing to help bring myself back to center, if you will. But just doing nothing for a little bit is a great way to reset your mind. Not everything has to be productive. Sometimes boring is exactly what our brains need. Being bored kind of creates it actually 100% creates creativity. It opens the door for creativity. So if you haven't sat there and done simply nothing lately, I want to encourage you to do so. I think a lot of men with ADHD go years thinking that like I'm just bad at handling life. But really, you might just be running on a nervous system that is constantly overloaded. And you never really learned how to shut it down properly. You've learned how to shut it down in the not so positive ways, but how do you relearn that? How do you force yourself to shut it down in a proper way? So if no one has told you this lately, you don't have to wait until you crash to slow down by any means. You don't have to earn rest. You're not weak for being overwhelmed. If you have ADHD, there's reasons for all of this. And sometimes the best thing that you can do is honestly just to step outside and breathe a little, slow everything down, slow life down. You have that control in the moment. Make time for it. Stop trying to outrun your brain. Promise you, that's leads you to nowhere good. So again, I want you to realize and understand that you are not alone in this. All right. ADHD is your explanation. So now that you know what that explanation is, you can learn more about it and you can create systems that will help you day in and day out. And if you're listening to this podcast, if you're following us on social media, there's a community there, and we're going to continue to help people understand this journey of ADHD. So I appreciate you all for tuning in. This is Wild Focus.